So let's go back to our definition of leadership, right? So the mindful leadership is the art of exploiting the power of mind in not giving up in the pursuit of creating a better future. Now we're going to go into the three main pillars of mindful leadership. So the first pillar of mindful leadership is the power of intention. So once there was this guy driving on the road, and it was nice, sunny, breezy weather, driving in his beautiful car, and the sun was shining and the breeze was blowing. And then suddenly he comes across a fork. He had to decide whether to take the left road or the right road. So he sees there's a tree next to the road and there's a sage sitting under the tree. He goes to the man and he says, which road should I take? And the man said, where do you want to go? And the guy who was driving, he said, I don't know. And the man said, then it doesn't matter. So we are making choices every moment, every day of our life. But most of the choices that we are making them unknowingly and unintentionally. And the power of intention is, can we put some intentions behind those choices? Can we put some kind of a compass behind the choices that we are making? The choices we are making consciously, the choices we are making unconsciously, the choices we are making subconsciously. The question is, can we put some intentions behind those choices? So power of intention is all about moving to a life that is led with intention rather than living in tension. So it is about transitioning from living in tension to leading with intention. And we'll talk about why stress, the opposite of stress, is not calmness or etc. It is clarity. If you have clarity about the life that you want to lead, what your intentional life is, the most of the stress goes away. And we're going to talk about that. The second pillar of my is power of deep self-awareness. Who am I? Now, according to one research, how many people think that they are highly self-aware? 90%. So 90% of us think that we are highly self-aware. And according to the same research, how many of us are actually highly self-aware? It's about 15 to 20%. So you know what that means? What that means is that 70% of us are lying to ourselves about ourselves most of the time. So there are two parts to this self-awareness that we're going to be talking about. One is, who am I? What is it that's driving me? What is that driving my choices? And the second part is, what is blocking me from achieving my full potential? What are those biases, prejudices, blocks? And most of these blocks are actually stored in our subconscious and unconscious mind. We are not even aware of. And the only way to get to that is through the practice of mindfulness. So who am I? And what is blocking me from achieving my full potential? So it is about leading a life aligned with who I am. It is about not being a square peg in a round hole. It is about getting away from what the society wants us to do versus what we want to do, or acknowledging at least what we want to do, right? The third pillar and the final pillar of mindful leadership is power of pause. Now, there are two types of pauses that we're going to be talking about. First is the pause between stimulus and response. There is an opportunity to create a pause between stimulus and response. Now, that is the pause where most of the development takes place. That is the pause where growth happens. That's where innovation happens. That's where the real learning takes place for every individual. So we'll be talking about that pause. And the second type of pause is actually stepping off the proverbial treadmill. Now, this is not a race. You cannot win this race by running faster and faster to keep pace with the fast changes that we are coming across. In fact, what we're going to talk about today is how to slow down, how to create a pause. how to understand who am I and what I want, and then live a life which is much more happier and much more fulfilled. And that's what we're going to be looking at. So pause, there are two types of pauses that we're talking about. One is the pause between stimulus and response. How do we create that? And the second is stepping off the proverbial treadmill. How do you create that pause daily basis, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, etc. Right? So it is about moving from living compulsively to leading consciously. How do we start making choices consciously in our life? Because conscious choices means you're starting to live a life of no regrets. And we'll talk about that. So mindfulness is the art of exploiting the power of mind, not giving up in the pursuit of creating a better future, right? And we talked about the three pillars: the power of intention, the power of self-awareness, and power of pause. Now we're going to go a little deeper into each one of these pillars, and we'll get into the how of these pillars. Yeah. At this stage, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take some questions.
So I think, let me see, there were few questions or some comments were there.
Yeah.
Sudhir Agarwalji is of the view that we are under some notion of self-awareness and the fear of not getting to know oneself. So, so when we were talking about the self-awareness, I think he mentioned this comment. So another comment from Sudhir Agarwalji himself was that even if this was of a subject not common to us, I think it is, he's referring to again the self-awareness.